Hello, everyone. This is Kelly Beard of KarmicTools.com, and tonight is our monthly Venus Circle, where we are gathering to do the reclamation at the throat chakra in the sign of Scorpio. So we're going to the soul levels tonight, y'all. Deep breath. Okay, welcome, everyone. I'm so grateful to those who can be here live, and those who get the replay are going to get something really juicy, because tonight we're going to the soul level. This is where everything is deeper. In the old days, if you had any Scorpio in your chart at all, I gave you every stitch of information I had, because you have to learn Scorpio from multiple angles and from different experiences and through different lenses and whatnot. So it's important for us to recognize how multifaceted the soul is, and we are going to get into what that looks like this month. First, we always do a review. We open with a review, and last month was the third eye, reclaiming the new vision of how we relate with others, but also being super unified within. There's been this new level of integration, I think, based on the release work that we did on the Leo side that cleared all the self-esteem issues and self-love and self-worth and self-value. It helped us clear things about our presentation and how that wasn't really working in our favor, and we needed to upgrade the presentation in certain ways, so that on this reclamation side, which is guided by Libra, which has more to do with our relationships, partnerships, and collaborations, right? So we wanted to get our light cleaned up and shining bright so that we could interact with others at this higher level. And we're in the cycle that's going to culminate in the spring of 2025. So every month I'm reminding you that you're calling in something you want to be able to measure and trust that this is your outcome for the investment of energy work that you've done with this cycle with Venus. I should back up a little for anyone new. We do 9 months of release work and 9 months of reclamation work, and we're on the reclamation side. And there's a couple of you sitting in now that have joined early for the next cycle, which is going to be on the cusp of Pisces Aries. So that's going to be really important for those of you with that cusp activated in your chart. But last month, what came up? Did you get a new vision of how to interact with others? Did you find a little bit more unification within yourself? Did you solidify any kind of balance, in any kind of way? Because, we're at that equinox point right now. Did you solidify more beauty? What did you do with your Libra zone? How did that manifest for you? Was it more partnerships or beauty or self-care, or what came up about recalibrating the balance so that you can handle what's coming in, possibly those new partnerships, personal or professional? And let's assume that third eye, that Iwaju, was activated, and you're starting to vision what's possible for you after the clearing and now in the process of reclaiming. That's the other thing I like to remind folks about, is that there are so many people out there, healers and different modalities and things to help you release. But I don't see a lot helping you reclaim. So that's how this was even born, was because if we let go of certain aspects of self that very likely have been habits or ingrained neural pathways, if we don't replace it with something new right away, with something to hold on to fill that space, it's too easy to slip back into old habits. So this is why we have to constantly be vigilant about our values and priorities with Venus and what we really care about and what are we investing our time, energy, and money in. So this is why we care what Venus is up to, right? And if we recalibrated the balance, then going to the soul level and accessing power, of course, goes so much better, right? If we're out of whack and imbalance, we don't want to be wielding power. So the throat chakra is the power of the voice. So we're going to definitely weave that in throughout the night as well. But now we're calling in for this month. Technically, the activation is on October 5th, so if you want to light a candle and do some prayers on that day, I recommend it, for your throat chakra or for reclaiming power, creativity, and solidifying, again, with kind of anchoring your own instincts and inner knowing. That's the Scorpio part of you is psychic. Okay, it knows things. It doesn't know why it knows, and sometimes it probably can't even put it into words. But there's a knowing that comes with your soul, the soul knowing, right, that we want to have a relationship with. We want to have a connection to, however you want to put that. So let's think about that as our overall theme, and our consideration question is, what are you conceiving, cultivating, or creating with your newfound power, or the connection to your heart and your soul body, right? So again, we're in the soul level. This isn't worldly. This is the invisible realms. This is the conception point, the 0 point of possibilities, which I think is on here somewhere. So deep breath. Scorpio is never easy, but it's always worth it, I promise. Now, this is what's been really deep. Okay, here's another thing about the release and reclamation side, is that for those that are subscribers and have their books and got their Venus reading and their custom guide, which is what, like I said, a handful of you are getting ready to do in the spring, when you have that, you have been taking notes on your release side. Now on the reclamation side, I send you back to see what you released, and that is going to inform what you want to reclaim. Now, when we were releasing, I sent them ahead and said, go look at what you're going to reclaim, because that may inform what you need to release, okay? And so back in December, whether you were with us or not, there was a clearing that happened. The throat and the power center are connected. So we had to clear at the power center something about our I am, something about the identity and power and personal will had to be cleaned up a little bit and cleared out in order to now express at this higher level with the throat chakra. So everything's connected, right? So I also teach that too. The root and the crown are connected. The creative center and the third eye are connected. The power center and the throat are connected, which is why it was so deep when they wanted to mask us up and shut us up, because that's a form of power that was getting shut down worldwide. It's kind of crazy when you really think about it. And then the heart connects above and below, and so we're always making sure that the heart is open, otherwise above and below can't communicate, and they can't complement each other the way they should. And that has to do with us being in our body and in our consciousness. So we work this from so many different angles, y'all, that we really get it. But we're going to review what we released in December. And like I said, whether you're with us or not, you may have felt some of this. And then for those of you who have been clocking along, feel back into that time and how much you got done and how much you cleared also in the Scorpio department. Now, they're not always the same sign of release and reclaim, but in this case, we doubled down on releasing in Scorpio and now reclaiming in Scorpio, which is a pretty big deal in and of itself. So back then, which was 9 months ago, this is part of the Venus cycle, we released unconscious creations and complicity. You know, sometimes we're complicit in our own downfall because of what we co-create with others along the way. We talked about releasing the fight or flight, you know, the us or them, the kill or be killed type of consciousness. Lack of discipline and focus, you know, because Scorpio is military discipline. So if you can't focus in your Scorpio department, there's something imbalanced there. And I usually back it up by saying, let's release unconscious habits in favor of conscious practices. There's still a lot of things we have to do on a regular basis, but we want to be conscious about it. And then we let go of the misuse of, fear of, or disconnect from your personal power and instincts, which, like I said, Social Collective would love to shut that down. And then sometimes our family and friends want to block that. So deep breath. You know, this is where karma comes into play when Scorpio's kicking too. But we can flip that energy into creativity. We let go of ego-driven struggles, you know, a certain rigidity about the fixed natures. And certainly in Scorpio, it's like once you've been violated, no going back, right? Fear-based living or survival mode, or what we call stifling darkness. You know, all of us kind of went through a dark night of the soul at that time because we were melting down, dissolving, letting go of things that don't express the soul anymore, that were blocking our power, that were holding us back, sometimes of our own doing, you know. Repressing or suppressing your nature or violating Mother Nature got cleared out of here. Toxic emotions within and then toxic mimics without. So we talked about toxic mimics being pornography is the toxic mimic of sexuality and sensuality. Gangs are a toxic mimic of community. You know, people are hungry for these connections, but there's lots of mimics out there, and especially now with virtual reality kicking the way it is and AI and all that stuff. And we went back through some ancient soul level past life fears and phobias. So if we did the deep soul level cleansing, then that brings us to what's possible for us this month. So this month is about beginning to really express your new values and priorities in your everyday life as well as in your exchanges with others. Because this activation is happening at the throat chakra in Scorpio, it's all about the power of your authentic voice and the new level of soulful self-expression that is getting activated at this time in your life. You are recognizing the pure power and potential in your ideas, thoughts, words, and deeds, and being more selective and conscious about what goes in and out of your own mouth, standing in the firm knowledge that anything that you think, feel, say, write down, and proclaim to the world is bound to manifest. Ooh, deep breath. Being embodied on earth with access to the elements, you are the magician and capable of putting your resources together in a way that cultivates the most beautiful, juicy, delicious new level of living your life and expressing your authentic self. Ashe. We're moving toward manifestation, so now is the time when you begin to ignite your passion and enlist the energy, resources, and support that you need for whatever you would like to have in form by March of 2025, okay? Always keeping that in the back of your mind. So if we imagined it and we're still in the upper chakras, we're looking at how is it going to be expressed? How is it going to be received by others? What are the different ways that it could be expressed? Or we're in a learning teaching zone as well. That's all part of this too. We're activating the Alchemist archetype, which asks you to get even more creative and start combining different things together to create something completely unique and of your own making. It is a powerful exercise to use your resources in a whole new way that creates altogether new options that were never possible before now. Your inner lover, which is the Leo archetype we worked with, is now informing your plans, preferences, and possibilities. But your inner alchemist is the creator. You've cleared and released your old self, along with the old values and priorities, and you've come into your own in a new way, so that you can now access a part of your own essence that has been growing within you over time. It needed to be developed, and you needed to have certain types of experiences in order to unlock your imagination and free your mind so that you could conceive a whole new vision here and now. Ashe, deep breath. This month will fortify the connection to your sound body and throat chakra, initiating and reclaiming your authentic voice to express your true essence and to allow your soul self to lead and ego to follow. You're coming into your own by this time and getting more comfortable with making new choices or expressing in new ways. You've done so much release work and healing soul work that will serve 7 generations, past and future, that you are now free to express your own next higher level. What do you want to be a voice for? What have you longed to express but never felt strong enough to handle until now? You now know what is you and what was inherited or conditioned within you. And you are stronger navigating your own path so that you can now express more personal authenticity and integrity. Ashe. So, that throat chakra is serious. We are going to reclaim some pretty juicy things here. The power to create and sustain your own life, and what I added, like move freely but protected, right? When you're in your power and your spidey senses are activated, so your psychic senses are keyed in and you're connected in a clear channel, then you can move so freely and so protected. So we want to get to know our Scorpio zone. We're reclaiming the ability to handle power. The power of your own magnetic field is incredible. I'm so glad Nasa's here tonight, girl. If you come in and talk about any of this, I'll be so happy. We reclaim being Teflon. This was a funny one. This is old school Scorpio that came in when I was young and learning about Scorpio. Is we really want to be Teflon. Stuff has to roll off. Those dark projections of other people or even ourselves need to just roll off. But at the same time, it's kind of like the snake. You want to forgive, but you don't want to forget, right? For different violations. In this case, we want to observe that there might be some dark projections, but get that penetrating insight. Get that, okay, why is this showing up right now? Ask questions. And then we're reclaiming direct access to our psychic ability, our X-ray vision, our soul-level discernment and discrimination, really critical. Again, if you're blocked or going through different things, it can be hard to access, but that's why we did the clearing. And we made room for this so that we could express safely at this higher level. We want to choose to be military disciplined, right? We want to have that laser focus, to follow up and follow through. If you say you're going to do something, then do it, right? That kind of thing. If we're at the throat, let's think about how that works. Tapping into your deepest well of creativity, okay? This is the deep, 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 deep well. This isn't, oh, let me just throw it together. This is going to the soul, asking for direction and validation and confirmation of what you're bringing to life. We're also reclaiming a better allocation of our resources as an expression of self, right? So how you spend your time, energy, and money basically tells the universe what you value and what's really important to you. We are reclaiming a deep self-trust, that inner knowing, and the ability to honor the life-death life cycle. So when things are done in Scorpio, it should be easy to let go and let God and just let things die, because we know when things die, they're creating space for something new to come in. I mean, the universe abhors a vacuum. They're never going to leave an empty space. So as soon as we clear things out, we need to be conscious of what we're bringing back in. We're also reclaiming that unbreakable connection to the soul, or to soul-level truth, or to your instincts, right? It's unbreakable, but we can forget about it. We can not tend to it. We could make it stronger if we did. And Scorpio, I always consider, because it's the conception point, the 0 point of possibility. So this is really your soul's creative potential. What do you really want to be a voice for or express through you, through your channel? We're also reclaiming the new way of using, directing, and managing your individual power, okay? We're powerful creators right now, and it's important to do that in a clean way and to understand how your power works. Again, with the life-death life cycle, knowing right timing for you, the individual, is so part of that. And the last one is feminine power is deep, going in and down, okay? Whereas masculine power is more out and up. So think about that as you navigate. Are you going in and down to the soul level? Or are you too in your upper chakras, in your mind, or things like that? So I'm going to take a quick pause here before we get to the tools and divinations to see if Cinnamon made it. And if anyone has to say or a question, let me know. You *6 will unmute you.
Kelly, it's Nasa. Hey.
Hello.
I want to, because you know you speak in my language here.
I knew it.
I kind of want to, I was writing a little mind map here. First of all, I want to offer another perspective on when we say feminine energy is this and masculine energy is that. When we seek to move forward in our creation stories and seek to really become the fully realized human, feminine energy is the most powerful when it envelops masculine energy and does the same thing at the same time. So this is where we're moving away from polarity and we're moving into unity consciousness, understanding that feminine energy and masculine energy are not separated, and feminine energy becomes the most powerful when it harnesses the energy out like a battery. A battery that runs a Walkman, right? How that works is the negative part of the battery, which we call feminine energy, actually holds the force, gathers it, and pushes it up to the positive polarity, aka masculine polarity, and that's what makes the battery work. So feminine energy can be only at its most powerful when it knows how to harness both of those energies at the same time. So what does that look like? Now, Kelly mentioned about the electromagnetic field. Here's something that we do not understand. Everything within 6 feet or that comes within 6 feet of us becomes our responsibility. That means that when somebody comes within 6 feet of our E-field, then my self-conception of myself and my mastery over my energy field is going to dictate whether that person acts in alignment with my desires or whether they're coming into my E-field and they act outside alignment with my desires. So if someone comes into my E-field and they're agitating me, or I didn't create this experience with this person, place, or thing, If we look at that thing as separate, we are in trouble in victim mindset, and we are in healing mode, not creation mode. So I want to go back to what Kelly said earlier when we talk about getting stuck in the healing process. When we're getting stuck in the healing process, we are actually living in the past, because we got to go to the past and pull shit up in order to look at it and heal it. And that's where we all been. Well, unfortunately, we can get stuck in that cycle, and we're just healing. So how do we do what Kelly says, where we're staying in reclaim mode, or in my school, we call it expansion mode. So how do you stay in expansion mode and still deal with the different contractions that come into my experience purely to show me the aspects of my own self that need to be healed? Anyone that is in your experience, anything that is in your experience that's agitating you, it is there for you to see what is in your electromagnetic field that is in competition with what you truly desire. So if I expand with my focus being on what I want to create, so how do I know what I want to create? Your desire. So my desire is bringing on a yearning for healing. It's bringing on a desire for a yearning for love, or whatever it is. That is the cue that within that specific container, I can expand my creation while still dealing with the things that ultimately hold us back. That is how you can get out of the healing cycle, and you can start bringing things into your awareness that is keeping you from expansion, dealing only with those things at one time that is in opposition to what you truly desire. And if you do that, then while reclaiming and while expanding, you will drop those things out of your awareness. That is the new state of how it is, because you no longer can get anything accomplished in this world right now because of the extra solar flares and whatever it is. We're more magnetic than ever as beings and this planet. So that is not a doing time, it is a being time. So you have to then check and see, what am I feeling? Because everything that you're doing it because you're trying to chase a feeling. So if you get the feeling now, and you encapsulate your feminine energetics with your masculine energetics, unifying them, not the little separation line in the yin-yang anymore, just the black with the dot in the middle, then what you will do is your E field, or your electromagnetic field, will then become a massive vortex to draw everything you need to you in alignment with the specific thing that you desire and you are creating at that moment. And this is how you get out of the healing cycle and you step into the expansion cycle.
Ooh, I love it. Don't go nowhere, because now, two things. First of all, NASA's doing some kind of workshop to teach all this, so if y'all are interested, holla back. But also, NASA's been doing her book, so I would love a little personal testimony of the Scorpio zone and what you released and how you feel like you're reclaiming, because I can witness and testify that you're in a new place since December.
Yeah, I tell you all the time, even though I'm not here, I be in my book. And this is why, like, with my programs, I've merged this Venus program into a couple of my own programs. So when you come, you're going to automatically get Kelly, because in December, January, probably into February, I was releasing this old, I can't, everybody else. Why am I a coach? And my clients are improving. They're falling in love. They're becoming healthier. My clients are achieving miraculous things, but I am not. And what I realized is that the self-conception that I had of myself was out of alignment with the person that I needed to be, the state of being that I needed to be to draw the things to me that I desire effortlessly without the hard work. So that old conception of me that I have to work hard, it's either feminine or masculine energy, and I'm burning myself out and nothing's working and other people are successful and I'm not successful, that heifer had to die. She had to go away. And so coming into the reclaim phase was really reclaiming on such an epic level. It was reclaiming my oversoul, reclaiming responsibility for my mastership. And when I reclaimed responsibility over how my life was supposed to be, that's when I stepped into the abundance that I'm experiencing right now. And it didn't take long. It just took me taking responsibility for the reclamation. These planets, Venus, Libra, all of this, they're doing nothing for us other than giving us the opportunity to step into this frequency that is so in oneness that it shines and it burns away anything that stands in your desire. So that's what December through January, February, it was burning away that old concept of myself that said this. And I stepped into a new concept. I reclaimed responsibility for my identity and for my power. That's what I reclaimed. Yeah.
I love it. I'll say, the other thing I want to just piggyback on responsibility being the ability to respond. We want to be responsive creatures. And also, Nasa, if you haven't gone too far, if you want to speak on and maybe testify to the key difference between the snake shedding a skin but still being a snake versus the butterfly changing from a whole other being into a new being. That is what I think of with Scorpio, too, because we talk about Scorpio as the levels. Scorpion is the lowest level of Scorpion expression, which is, sting you, let me hurt you before you hurt me kind of energy. And very unconscious or very lower level consciousness. And then it graduates to the ego, which is still pretty predatory, but now we have more of a perspective and an overview and an understanding that if we're disciplined, we go after only what we want and only what we need, and kind of like what Nasa's talking about, everything else burns away. It's non-essential. It doesn't have anything to do with what your focus is. When you're laser like an eagle focus, that's real focus. But what Nasa just described was the phoenix exploding in fire and being reborn out of the ashes. So I don't know if you want to speak on more of that.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And when you were talking about that, I love these two examples that we have of the evolving womb man, right? That's what I call us, womb men. We are atoms and neutrons just like everybody else, but we have a womb, which gives us actually an additional source of power, which I talk a lot about, and why people are afraid of us, right? But we're going to bring that together. But with the snake and the butterfly, both of these creatures represent two different processes of metamorphosis. And this is why I love nature, because nature tells us which one of those processes are the beneficial for whatever we're trying to go towards. Now, nature calls one of those processes, actually this, and if you look this specifically in the insect world, they call it complete metamorphosis or an incomplete metamorphosis. Now, when nature calls an incomplete metamorphosis, any being, specifically insects and certain type of animals, that really just get bigger, right? They have a nymph stage, and then they have an egg stage and a nymph stage and then an adult stage. It just gets bigger. Nature says that is the incomplete metamorphosis. Now, an insect that goes through a complete metamorphosis, things like butterflies, ladybugs, all of the wonderful little creatures that we all look for in our shamanic lessons, right? When we're in our shamanic lessons with Kelly, all of the ones that we really want, moths, all of those, they are complete metamorphosis. Now, the difference with that is that each stage of development, that creature is something different. Now, nature says that is a complete metamorphosis. So when we look at the snake and we look at the butterfly, we have to think about, okay, what are these two environments? Do you want to stay on the ground and just get bigger? And yeah, you do definitely have some feminine wisdom there, right? The mother snake, she wisdom, all right? She at the head, she at the tree and talking what she talking and doing what she doing. Or do you need whatever you are trying to create? Maybe it's not enough to just grow your knowledge. Maybe you need to actually become someone different. And so this is where the oneness comes into play. Because if you have to become something completely different, that means at every stage of reclamation, what you are doing is saying, what is the self-concept? What is the identity OCT container that I need to step into. We get way too caught up on personalities, but if you look that up in a dictionary, a personality is just a bunch of ideas that you have allowed and you have agreed upon. So if that is actually the definition of a personality, that means that I can take on any type of personality and self-concept that I need to take on in order to achieve the bigger and greater thing. So yes, sometimes you might just need to get bigger. Sometimes you may need to turn into something else, and you need to ask yourself which one and get the right type of coach that can show you how to do that, be it Kelly or me or whatever. Do you just want to expand your ideas, or do you want to take those ideas to turn yourself into someone that is so drastically different that, number one, the same problems that ail you today couldn't possibly ail you because you're not the same person, and your creations become so big that you know you got to step into a bigger identity in order to accomplish your desires. But you get to choose on this wonderful planet. I choose to be a butterfly only because I know a caterpillar can get big as it wants to, but it's always going to be to the ground, okay? I want to fly. I want to be a butterfly.
I love it. And she is a beautiful butterfly. We all are. We are really reclaiming this ability to regenerate ourselves, which is also a deep Scorpio principle. So thank you, darling. So grateful, so rich, so beautiful. Thank you, thank you. But we have enough to cover. We got enough deep stuff to go into at this moment, like our tools. So for those of you either doing the subscription or having your book, you have your personal activations. This is what we call our personal council. We also have the Sky Council, which is the chart for October 5th, when Moon and Venus will be together in Scorpio in the 10th house of career and reputation and what you want to be known for. So this is where the metamorphosis is happening, and it's tied to your emotions and values, you know, the Moon and Venus, what you care about, your feminine nature, and all of that, everything Nasa just described. We're conceiving this new way of moving through the world. By that token, all the Libra energy is up in the 9th house where we're learning. It's intercepted, so we're learning behind closed doors about how to interact with others, how to relate, and in a specific way, how to avoid doing old negative patterns of relating because of the South Node. The sun is lighting it up and asking us to learn from our other partnership mistakes. Mercury's there, finally out of retrograde, so we're recalibrated in what's healthy for us so we can choose a little better. But Juno, it rules how we do partnership intimacy in particular. So our definitions are shifting about how that is and what makes us happy and fulfilled and things like that. The way to fulfillment on the Aries side, which is in the 3rd house with Chiron, is to do your own healing and integration always first. Look in the mirror, tend to your own needs, and then go to what you're contributing to others and learning from others. Let's see, Capricorn's ruling it. So on the personal identity side, that puts Pluto there at 29 degrees, a really powerful final 250-year cycle. But personally, for us on this micro level, is the cauldron that we're rebirthing. Sirius is also right there on the line with the 1st house, and it's 11 degrees Capricorn is so powerful because how you nurture and like to be nurtured is shifting with the Capricorn energy, which means feeling supported and protected, having a structure, having access to your council of elders and council of grandmothers or the ancestral council and things to guide your individual identity, kind of purpose, choices. That's what all that is. But by the same token, this month of Scorpio could also bring some reflections of family karma because Mars is warming up for a retrograde in Cancer Leo. It's falling in the 7th house here. So we're talking, again, with the partnerships and things and what kind of karmic patterns do you have around being needy versus being independent, being inclusive and kind of team-oriented versus being a loner and wanting to do everything yourself. There's this big swing there that's being kind of highlighted. So let's be mindful of that. And then Saturn and Neptune have split because they're a couple of degrees apart, but they're both still in Pisces. But Saturn is giving us, again, this once in 30-year chance to anchor our spiritual practices and get in tune with our body in a way that we can follow those instincts and intuitions and stand on them. of that ability to respond, right? With imagination, think Pisces, with imagination and creativity and amazing mystical edges to it, because we're mystical creatures, the way it's breaking down now. If we use more than 5% of our brain, we would be really mystical and magical by our own definitions around here. So the chart is very supportive in that the change is happening and the rebirth, or let's say the initiation, is happening in your consciousness and your reputation and the community that you deal, like out in the world. Whereas some things that are shifting internally have more to do with your long-term stability, again, with being in touch with your emotions, having a balanced emotional body, right? A nice, clear emotional body that doesn't do you in. Like Scorpio can be very self-sabotagey, too, on the shadow side. And if we're going to keep it in the throat chakra, let's just be mindful that our words can kill or cure. Our expressions can, help and heal, or it can just break it down and create the death cycle to let something go. They're both valuable, but we have to be mindful of where we're at in different places. The other way I look at the energies in terms of our council and whatnot is that we only have Moon and Venus in Scorpio and Uranus across the way in Taurus. There's nothing in Leo and nothing in Aquarius. Now, you all have heard me say normally when this happens it's 3 out of 4 and we only have to bring in 1, but now we really have to bring in the whole Leo-Aquarius dynamic, which is also tied to having integrity about you and your presentation, but also not hiding your light under a bushel, but activating your unique contribution to the world. And also, who are you and who do you show up as in the community? If that's been rebirthed recently, and all the activities on the Scorpio-Taurus side, which is body and soul, then we need to balance that with a little mind and spirit, which means expand the vision, think progressively, like Nasa said, don't go back. We're not really doing that so much. We want to always think forward, and this energy all supports that. So bring in that self-love. Just be alert to when you are offering your energy and time and resources. Is it an aspect of your unique contribution, or do you have some other kind of motivation behind it, let's just say? So for our divinations, each month we look at Women Who Run with the Wolves. We have a goddess card and a tarot card. Women Who Run with the Wolves is part of a story, and our story is Sealskin, Soulskin, where we reclaim our skins, right? We reclaim our identities in the deepest soul level aspect or soul level ways, right? And we learn through the different parts of the story how to reclaim that. And, of course, Women Who Run with the Wolves is my Bible. I love it. All the stories and archetypes are very familiar. It's Clarissa Pinkola Estes. If you don't have it, it's definitely a Bible to have on hand. It's really good for bibliomancy and holding and opening, which is how we end up with these stories in this class. So deep breath. Our guidance for this month with Scorpio at the throat chakra. This is so critical to be aware of. That is the medial woman and surfacing, okay? Deep breath. So we're in the zone of returning to oneself. That's another aspect of reclamation that is part of what we're doing here. We are returning from a zone of healing injured instincts and healing different things that have happened to our psychic intuitive capacities. We've been healing those things so that they're stronger and they can really serve us now. As always, open to receive that which is just for you and release the rest. The medial woman. In the story, a curious compromise is made. Instead of leaving the child or taking the child with her forever, Seal woman takes the child for a visit to the ones who live beneath. The child is given recognition as a member of the Seal clan through the blood of his mother. There in the underwater home, he is educated in the ways of the wild soul. The child represents a new order in the psyche. His seal mother has breathed some of her own breath, some of her own special kind of animation into this child's lungs, thereby, in psychological terms, transforming him into a medial being. Deep breath. The medial woman, medial being, one who is able to bridge both worlds. Yet even though this child is initiated in the underworld, he cannot stay there. He must come back to earth. Thenceforward, he occupies a special role. The child who has dived down and resurfaced is not wholly ego and not wholly soul, but somewhere in between. Deep breath. This is at the core of all women, what Tony Wolff, a Jungian analyst who lived in the first half of the 20th century, called the medial woman. The medial woman stands between the worlds of consensual reality and the mystical unconscious and mediates between them. Deep breath. We all have this aspect of self. The medial woman is the transmitter and receiver between two or more values and ideas. She is the one who brings new ideas to life, exchanges old ideas for innovative ones, translates between the world of the rational and the world of the imagination. She hears things, she knows things, and she senses what should come next. This midway point between the worlds of reason and imagination, between feeling and thinking, between matter and spirit, all the opposites and all the shades of meaning that one can imagine, is the home of the medial woman. The seal woman in the story is an emanation of soul. She is able to live in all worlds, the topside world of matter, the far world, or underworld, which is her spiritual home, but she cannot stay too long on earth. She and the fisherman, the ego psyche, create a child who can also live in both worlds, but cannot stay too long in the soul home. Deep breath. The seal woman and the child together form a system in a woman's psyche that is rather like a bucket brigade. The seal woman, soul self, passes thoughts, ideas, feelings, and impulses up from the water to the medial self, which in turn lifts those things onto land and consciousness in the outer world. The structure also works conversely. The events of our daily lives, our past traumas and joys, our fears and hopes for the future, are all passed hand over hand down to the soul, who makes comments on them in our night dreams, emanates its feelings upward through our bodies, or pierces us with a moment of inspiration with an idea on the end of it. Deep breath. The wild woman is a combination of common sense and soul sense. The medial woman is her double, I love this, and is also capable of both. Like the child in the tale, the medial woman is of this world but can travel to the deeper reaches of the psyche with ease. Some women are born with this as their gift. Other women acquire it as a skill. It matters not which way one arrives at it, but one of the effects of going to home on a regular basis is that the medial woman of the psyche is strengthened each time a woman goes and returns. Ashe. Deep breath. So this part of going to your soul level that Scorpio represents is what I'm feeling for that. There's the top side, the Taurus side of Scorpio, where we're on earth and fruit and flowers and food and sustenance and nourishment and protection, all of that on the earthly side for our physical body. But Scorpio's the breath of God that breathes life into all that. It's the essence, it's the dark matter that holds the potential, the feminine power that, like Nasa said, is most powerful when it is charged by the masculine. So deep breath. We're going to play with those visualizations too. The other aspect of things to remember about Scorpio, because like we said, you can get stuck there. If you go down too long in our Scorpio zones, we can get stuck, and it can be depressing and dark and not where we want to live all the time. But at the same time, ignoring the soul altogether is out of the question. We don't do that, okay? So surfacing becomes a superpower. The wonder and pain of returning to the wild home place lies in the fact that we can visit, but we cannot stay. No matter how wonderful it is in the deepest home imaginable, we cannot stay underwater forever, but must rise back to the surface. Like the child in the story who is gently placed on the stony shore, we come back to our mundane lives infused with new animation. Ashe. Even so, it is a sad moment to be placed back on the shore and on our own once again. In ancient mystical rites, initiates returning to the outer world also felt a bittersweet mood pass through them. They were glad and refreshed, but also a little wistful at first. The remedy for this small mourning is given when Seal Woman instructs her child. Deep breath. I am always with you. Only touch what I have touched. My fire sticks, my ulu, my knife, my stone carvings of otters and seals, and I will breathe into your lungs a wind for the singing of your song. Deep breath. Her words are a special kind of wild promise. They imply that we should not spend much time immediately yearning to go back. Instead, understand these tools, interact with them, and you will feel her presence as though you are a drum skin that has been tapped by a wild hand. Deep breath. The Inuit characterize these tools as those belonging to a quote-unquote real woman. They are what a woman needs to carve a life for herself. Her knife cuts dresses, frees designs, makes materials fit. Her knowledge of the fire sticks enables her to create fire under the most austere conditions. Her stone carvings express her mystical knowledge, her healing repertoire, and her personal union with the spirit world. Deep breath. We all need our tools, y'all. In psychological terms, these metaphors typify the strengths common to the wild nature. In classical Jungian psychology, some might call this tandem union the ego/self axis. The ego-self axis. In fairy tale lingo, the knife is, among other things, a visionary tool for cutting through obscurity and seeing into hidden things. The tools of fire making typify the ability to make nourishment for oneself, to transform one's old life into new life, to repel useless negativity. They can be seen as a representation of innate drive that heat strengthens the base materials of the psyche. Traditionally, the making of fetishes and talismans helps the fairy tale hero or heroine to remember that the strengths of the world of spirit are always close by. Ashe. For a modern woman, the ulu, her knife, symbolizes insight, her willingness and ability to cut away the superfluous, making clear endings and carving new beginnings. Her fire-making declares her ability to rise from failure, to create passion in her own behalf, to burn something to the ground if necessary. Her stone carvings embody her memory of her own wild consciousness, her union with the natural, instinctual life. Deep breath. Like the seal woman's child, we learn that to come close to the soul mother's creation is to be filled with her. Even though she has gone to her own people, her full force can still be felt through the feminine powers of insight, passion, and connection to the wild nature. Her promise is that if we make contact with the tools of psychic strength, we will feel her pneuma, which is her breath. Her breath will enter our breath, and we will be filled with a sacred wind for singing. The old Inuits say that the breath of God and the breath of a human, when commingled, cause a person to create an intense and holy poetry. Ashe. It is that holy poetry and singing that we're after. We want powerful words and songs that can be heard underwater and over land. It is the wild singing we are after, our chance to use the wild language we are learning by heart under the sea. When a woman speaks her truth, fires up her intention and feelings, stays tight with the instinctive nature, she is singing. She is living in the wild breath stream of the soul. To live this way is a cycle in itself, one meant to go on and on and on. This is why the child does not dive back under the water or beg to go with his mother as she swims out to sea and disappears from sight. This is why he stays on land. He has the promise. As we return to the clacking world, especially if we have been isolated in some way during our trip home, people, machines, and other objects have a slightly unfamiliar cast to them, and even the chatter of those around us sounds a little strange to our ears. This phase of return is called re-entry and is perfectly natural. The feeling of being from an alien world passes after a few hours or a few days. Thereafter, we will spend a good space of time at our mundane life, fueled by the energy we gathered on our journey to home, and practicing interim union with soul through the practice of solitude. Deep breath. In the tale, the seal woman's child begins to enact the medial nature. he becomes a drummer, a singer, a storyteller. In fairy tale interpretation, the drummer, by drumming, becomes the heart at the center of whatever new life and new feeling needs to arise and reverberate. The drummer is able to frighten things away as well as evoke them. The singer carries messages back and forth between the great soul and the mundane self. By nature and tone of voice, the singer can dismantle, destroy, build up, and create. The storyteller is said to have crept close and listened to the gods talking in their sleep. So through all these creative acts, the child lives what Seal Woman has breathed into him. The child lives what he has learned underwater, the relational life with the wild soul. We find ourselves then filled with drum beats, filled with singing, filled with listening, and saying our own words, new poems, new ways of seeing, new ways of acting and thinking. Instead of trying to quote-unquote make the magic last, we just live. Instead of resisting or dreading our chosen work, we move into it fluidly, alive, filled with new notions, and curious to see what happens next, I say. After all, the person who has returned home has survived being carried out to sea by the great seal spirits. Deep breath. All right. Woo! We are so supported at that throat chakra. I thought this was so perfect. Just gives us a whole nother way to look at things through a different lens of what these energies support for us this month. Deep breath. Now our goddess support is Queen Nefertiti, which is also alchemy. So alchemy keeps coming up too. Like we said, we're bringing different things together to create something completely new, conceived anew in this Scorpio zone. Her number's 38, which is 11, and we're back to some really powerful numbers. Nefertiti is a legendary Egyptian queen whose name means a beauty has come. Celebrated as a goddess and considered her husband's equal, Queen Nefertiti led a spiritual revolution worshiping the sun god, Ares. The Egyptian culture, she's from the Temple of Queens, the element of fire, and the guidance says, it is time. You turn everything that life throws your way into gold. You are on the path to fulfilling your purpose. Deep breath. Embodiment says you are an alchemist. You have the power to bend universal energy. Dare to transmute lead into gold by shifting from fear to love. Everything you desire exists in some form of loving energy. Match this frequency. Deep breath. We want a vibrational match. Set it in your mind's eye first. Imagine it. I am loved fully. What does it look, taste, and smell like to be loved unconditionally? I am happy and healthy. See it. I am a money magnet. What does that feel like? Deep breath, the embodiment. This is the other thing about walking things through the body. That helps manifest them even faster. When you really feel it, it comes quicker. The declaration says everything I touch turns to gold. So do a little digging. I'm sure you can find some more magic about Queen Nefertiti. I know I have some books and things on that. And then our deep tarot guidance comes from Tarot of the Spirit by Pamela Eakins. And we got the Seven of Water, which is insight in this one. And this is the deck that she combines a lot of different modalities: mythology, astrology, sacred geometry, the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, all that good stuff is in here. So the astrological association is actually Venus and Scorpio. So this turned out to be pretty perfect as well. Again, open to receive that which is just for you. Release the rest. Deep breath. No matter how much attention you have received from others, the empty space of your soul has not been filled. You know that the void within you is like a deep, natural well, a well so deep that its end is unknown. You have dreamed about love. You have had illusions and fantasies about love. You have waited for love. You have contemplated the idea of connection, union, and you have more than once anticipated wrongly what would occur when you came to know love. Deep breath. When love did not go as planned, in the worst cases, you have tried to fill the empty space with alcohol, drugs, or food, or you have tried to deprive the empty space, starve it to death, in the same abusive way. You have sought to fill the void with sex, however empty it feels in the end. But none of these desperate endeavors brought you any lasting love, beauty, or peace. The satisfaction you experienced was only fleeting, and the prospect of true love remained elusive. That is because such desperate measures contributed to your imbalance, and balance is the method through which truth is known. Balance is attained by following your conscience. The Eightfold Path of Buddha calls it the right views, right aspirations, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right meditation, and right rapture. Following your conscience moves you into balance with the overall cosmic order and the divine law and plan. The Greek myths say that human nature was in the beginning whole, that we were originally one. Then we became divided parts, and all the while we have longed for reconciliation. We have longed to move back to wholeness or oneness. That pursuit, the idea of moving back into oneness, is the pursuit of love, and at the Seven of Water, you are deeply involved in that pursuit. At the Seven, there is a psychic upwelling. There is a need to sink into the subconscious, the dark, for your answers, in order to make the necessary connection. At the Seven, you wish to discover your higher purpose in love, and that higher purpose has to do with reuniting with the whole. Therefore, the task of the Seven is to contemplate your own perception of the cosmic whole. Deep breath. You must rely on internal faith to stay balanced, at a point when you are most likely to hurl yourself off the path. Deep breath. Been there. The seventh sphere on the tree of life is the force of inspiration, the perfect balance of force, which is the number 3, and form, which is the number 4. 3 and 4 become 7. Becoming aware that you can assume the perfectly balanced position of the 7 at will can produce meaning and purpose, which equals fulfillment. You have force, and that is your own ability to overcome inertia. Overcoming inertia leads to the joy of creation. That which is created is new form. Maintaining form involves overcoming false ideals of love, beauty, and peace. The loftiest knowledge gained at the Seven of Water is the spiritual vision of the triumph of truth and original law. Such a vision is true love, true beauty, true peace, and true insight. To rediscover cosmic will, tune in to your natural instinct. Your own inner will is the will of the divine. Deep breath. So like I said, Scorpio breathes life into everything. That is your ability to breathe life into anything. And we want to work with it consciously this month, to play with your power, play with your magnetic field expanding and contracting. Recognize that Mars, our counterpart, is warming up for the shadow. It's very deep in Cancer. This is kind of interesting because I went into the new year under some other research I was doing, and basically it occurred to me that once it finally goes forward in Cancer, Leo, that's going to be the real power and activation, which is going to be spring and summer of the new year, of, let's say, it anchored within us to really take care of ourselves enough so that we can shine our light, to be organized and grounded enough that we can go out and have fun with other people, that this inner part is anchored so the outer part is effortless. This is what we're moving toward. And so the better we can do at each level and each stage and things, then the better that manifestation of 2025 is going to be, because there are lots of different indications from various different modalities and thinking and consciousness that all say 25 to 27 is pretty transformative, like never before. So, deep breath. Do we want a drum journey? We have a couple last few little things we could cover in a drum journey. Does anyone want to speak to the divinations?
Tanita, how are you?
Hey.
Hello?
Tanita?
Hey. Yes. Okay. So, first of all, this year I wasn't even going to do it. I was like contemplating. I was kind of on the, and then like right around July or whenever it began again, I was just like, of course I'm doing it. What am I even talking about? But it's been so supportive because at the start of this, in July, I had a falling out in my family. My mom, it's always been like my mom, my sister, brother, and I. My mom got angry at us with something she literally like just made up in her head. Like it was just, and I've always been very close to my mom. And she lashed out at us in an email, girl. In an email. It was so bad.
Oh, my God.
So, and I mean, so she documented the shit, right? But, like, okay, fine. And my brother and sister were kind of just like, oh, boy, well, I don't know, whatever. And the thing is that my mom and I had a very real relationship. Like, that was my best friend. And so this weird lashing out was, like, so weird to me, and it really threw me off for a long time. And I remember that it was July 2nd, 2023. But what I was going to say is that going through everything, because this year I became a grandmother, right, to my daughter.
Wow.
And it was, like, amazing. I helped deliver the baby. This was in January. In December, I started setting goals because I was just like, well, this year is going to be very different. And mind you, there was never any reconciliation between me and my mom, right? And the thing is, now I understand the reason why. There was a lot of ways in which I had to come up from under her and reparent myself because what I had learned from her was no longer serving me. And I did not realize that while I was up under her because, I mean, I was a shy child. I was always up under her skirt like this. That was my mama, right? And she is my mama. But there were so many lessons. So it was kind of, as you were reading the story again, it finally hit me. And I was like, oh, thank you, Spirit. Like, basically, it was basically like, allow me to reintroduce myself. And took me back into that darkness, and I understood where I came from. And as a result of where I came from, when I came back up out of there, I became somebody totally different. And I kind of was able to walk the line between seeing that last final push out and beginning anew. Right? So when this year came around and I joined an organization and I was just like, okay, this is great. And I wound up joining in a chapter of a woman who out loud was just like my mom. In her darkness, I was like, is this really happening? And then to speak to the throat chakra, right? Because, you know, my north node is in Leo and my south node is in Aquarius. And I'm constantly trying to balance out for the group. And I was like, I got into this mode. And, you know, my husband probably suffered the worst from it. But I was just like, I'm no longer willing to sacrifice for the group. Not in this way. Not in this way anymore. I'm no longer willing to be quiet. And so anything that disturbed me, I spoke on it. Not disrespectfully, but I was just like, I don't like that. What does that mean? Come again? Can you please clarify? Like, not just at home, not just with my husband, in this group, anywhere I went, it was just like I'm questioning everything, right? And I'm being noisy, basically, because in the end, I wound up very noisily coming up out of that particular chapter, going into another one where my light is being supported, and they're just like, yes, be a leader. Come on, we'll support you. We'll give you all the tools you need, which has been like a life journey. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I wanted that to be like a testimony as to why the Venus Circle is so important. And what Nasa was saying, I was like, baby, okay? Because I remember when Nasa was talking about things last year. I remember that. I was just like, girl, oh, you know, okay, I see you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so touched by your story because she was not walking that alone. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much. You know I love y'all.
Oh, thank you, baby. We love you too.
Kelly.
Oh, Kimberly, yes.
Hi. I was late, so I'm sorry that I'm late. I put it on multiple calendars for me to remember tonight. So yes, I was able to come in during the divination, so that just must have been what's going on. You've probably spoke to this. I'll be quick. So the Venus and Moon and all that kind of good stuff, 15 degrees. 15 degrees is magnetism, enchantment, music, drama, art, charisma, flair, attracts prosperity. And when I think about that attracting prosperity, we also see 15 degrees at the second house and eighth house. And I love that because the second house is ruled by Venus, and the eighth house, of course, is ruled by Pluto, which is wonderful when we're talking about Venus in Scorpio, right? And then, of course, when you went to Seven of Water, more like, bam, Venus and Scorpio, this is what we're supposed to be talking about. And just that, like I said, that 15 degrees, which is 15 degrees is service. It is taking care of others. It is bringing light. It is uplifting, perseverance, strong will, all that kind of good stuff. Me personally, Venus in Scorpio will actually hit my first house later on in the month. And I think, well, I'll just say that right now, Venus in Scorpio is in my 12th house. So there are things there which could be why, like, hey, I feel kind of blocked.
But here in a little bit, I'm going to come out, right? And Venus in Scorpio will be shining the light on some things that I want to do. So I'm asking in advance for this season, for this next month, what do I want to magnetize? What and where am I enchanting? What kind of music do I want to hear, be a part of? What kind of drama do I want to be a part of? The good stuff. What kind of art? What kind of charisma? Who am I? What am I attracting? Who am I attracting? So I just want to give that out. But, of course, like you said, we're very supportive. We're very supportive in that 15-6 energy as well. So I love you. Love everybody here.
Don't go. One more thing. I want you to speak on the throat chakra and expressing Venus and Scorpio, because Venus and Scorpio is super private. And so, again, how we move through with other people, it's going to be this kind of month where only people who can commune on a soul level are going to vibe with the frequency. I don't know. Kimberly, any thoughts?
Yes, I mean, my thoughts, that sounds so much like, for me, Venus and Scorpio in the 12th house. Feels like I'm only talking to, including spirit, with things that have to do with that karma. When I think of throat chakra, I used to think throat chakra means that I'm constantly being loud and out front and yelling. That's not necessarily what it always is. Sometimes it is, am I in that full communication and communion even with my spirit and my soul? Am I, like I got in front of my altar today, am I actually sitting in front of my altar and communing with my team? That's part of my throat chakra. Before I can commune with these humans, I need to make sure that I'm communing with my spiritual team. So that Venus and Scorpio for me it goes deep. And it's like, hey, have you done that deep work? Are you working on that deep work? Because if not, my communication with the humans around me, and my throat's already getting clogged up, my communication with the humans around me will be superficial. And I don't want it to be superficial, and or I don't want those people in my life. And so that's really been a thing where I'm having to make sure, especially right now, this is the best time of year for that ancestor journey, and for me to have that spiritual communication so that my throat chakra is clear and in divine alignment. I'm not just yelling out stuff for no reason. What I'm saying is what I'm meant to say. And then, I always say that aligned Mars. My Mars is going the right direction. I want that stuff that's coming out of me, my actions that flow out of my thoughts and out of my words. I want that to be in high alignment. And especially right now, I do feel like that Venus and Scorpio is a little quiet, a little focused, a little, what does that internal conversation look like? I don't know if that helps, Kelly, if that's what you want to do.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mama. I love it. Okay. We can do a little drumming and go in on some of that. That was a big download for all of us that have walked this path really consciously for the last year and a half. And as it culminates in Pisces Aries, it's going to be a whole different vibration for the next 18-month cycle. So I do hope some of you will do it again, and the newbies will come on and do it with us. It's a good one. So I am so grateful to everyone that could be here live and those getting the replay. This is a really good one. Probably going to have to post this one on the podcast station so others can hear the message, because this is deep, and we are preparing for a lot of good stuff to come in, but we want to be healthy and strong to receive it, to manage it, to maintain it, to enjoy it. Above all, finding that joy is so critical to our health and well-being. So carry on this month with deep awareness of your soul and your council of elders that guide you, your spirit team that guides you, and track those synchronicities and evolutions of your transformation that's going on right now. Everyone is in some stage of transformation and purification to move to this new level of reclamation, what we're really doing, claiming our values and priorities of the soul, not necessarily the personality, which, like Nasa mentioned, could be anything, anytime, any place. We have such free will and creativity to play with that. So play with it. Experiment in the conception realms before you really implant the seed and start nurturing it, right? And reach out directly when you need to. Join us again when and where you can. And thank you so much, everyone. Be well this month. Thank you for hanging late. I appreciate you so much. Keep in touch, everyone. Thank you, thank you. This is Kelly, signing off.